The massive ship sat on the launch pad like a metal mountain against the morning sky. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching the final preparations below. The Resilience was humanity's pride, built over 15 years with resources from every nation on Earth. Today, it would carry 300 of their best people to the stars. Sarah pressed her hand against the cool window. At 42, she had trained her whole life for this moment. The weight of representing all humanity sat heavy on her shoulders. Behind her, the crew moved with quiet efficiency, checking systems one last time. "Captain, all departments report." "Ready," said Commander Marcus Webb, her second in command. His voice carried the same mix of excitement and nerves that everyone felt. "Thank you, Marcus." Sarah turned from the window. "Open a channel to Earth Control." The communication officer nodded. "Channel open, Captain." "Earth Control, this is Captain Chen, aboard the Resilience. We are ready for departure." The response came immediately from Mission Control in Geneva. "Resilience, this is Earth Control. You are cleared for launch. Good luck out there, and bring back some friends." Sarah smiled at that. Friends, that was exactly what they hoped to find. For 50 years, strange signals had reached Earth from deep space. Patterns too complex to be natural, too organized to be random. The signals came from the direction of the galactic core, where scientists believed a great civilization might exist. The Galactic Confederation had revealed itself to humanity only 5 years ago. Their ships appeared in Earth's sky without warning, broadcasting messages in perfect English. They spoke of a vast alliance of species that ruled the galaxy. They offered knowledge, technology, and a place among the stars. But first, humanity had to prove they were worthy. The test was simple. Send a ship to their capital world. Show that humans could travel the vast distances between stars. Prove they were more than just another primitive species trapped on a single planet. "All stations prepare for launch," Sarah announced over the ship's communication system. Her voice echoed through every corridor and room of the kilometer-long vessel. In the cargo bays, scientists checked their equipment one final time. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the mission's lead xenobiologist, ran her fingers over cases containing samples of Earth life, plants, bacteria, even recordings of human art and music, everything that made Earth special, ready to share with their new galactic neighbors in the engineering sections. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley watched his crew monitor the fusion reactors. The engines that would push them faster than light were human-built, based on theories the Confederation had shared. It was a test of human ability to understand and improve alien science. "Engines online," Bradley reported. All systems green across the board. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. People across Earth stopped what they were doing to watch. 7, 6, 5. Children in schools pressed their faces to windows. 4, 3, 2. In homes and offices, families gathered around screens. 1. The Resilience lifted from Earth like a rising sun. Brilliant light poured from its engines as it climbed toward the sky. Higher and higher it rose until it was just a bright star moving among the real ones. 3 days later, they reached the edge of the solar system. The jump point coordinates the Confederation had provided waited in empty space. Sarah stood on the bridge, looking at the star display that showed their destination. The capital world of the Galactic Confederation lay 300 light-years away. "All departments, final status check," she ordered. One by one, her officers reported. Life support working perfectly. Navigation systems locked on target. The experimental jump drive humming with power. Everything humanity had learned, everything they had built, focused on this single moment. "Jump drive ready, Captain," announced the navigation officer. Sarah took a deep breath. Once they jumped, there would be no turning back for months. Journey to the Confederation capital would take 6 months each way. Earth would have to wait over a year to hear from them again. Execute jump. Space twisted around the Resilience. Stars stretched into lines of light. Reality bent and folded. Then, in an instant that felt like forever, they were somewhere else. The stars were different now. arranged in patterns no human had ever seen. Jump successful, the navigation officer reported. We are in Confederation space. For the next 6 months, they traveled deeper into alien territory. They passed worlds that glowed with strange colors. They saw space stations the size of moons. Ships of impossible shapes moved between the stars like schools of metal fish. The crew studied everything. They recorded new types of radiation, mapped star systems with planets made of materials that did not exist in human space. They practiced the Confederation languages until they could speak them without. Translators. Dr. Vasca spent her time preparing for first contact. She organized. The gifts from Earth practiced her presentations about human culture. The art, the music, the literature that showed the best of what humanity could create. Commander Webb drilled the security teams. Though everyone hoped they would not be needed, the Confederation had promised a peaceful meeting. Still they were. Far from home, alone among strangers. Finally, after 6 long months, they reached their destination. The capital world hung before them like a jewel, surrounded by orbital cities and defense platforms. Ships from dozens of different species filled the space around the planet. "This is it," Sarah whispered as she stared at the view screen. Everything humanity had worked for, dreamed of, lay ahead of them. The communication system crackled to life. An alien voice spoke in careful English. "Human vessel, you will follow the designated flight path to Docking Station 7. Prepare for inspection and processing." Sarah frowned at the cold tone. Processing. That was not the word she had expected. They had come too far to turn back now. "Understood," she replied. "The Resilience is ready to dock." As their ship moved toward the station, Sarah could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. The other ships around them seemed to be watching, waiting. She was about to discover that humanity's dreams of joining the galactic community would become their worst nightmare. The last message from the Resilience came on a Tuesday morning. Director James Harrison was drinking his coffee in the Mission Control Center in Geneva when the communication array picked up the signal. The message was brief and filled with static. "Earth. Control, this is Captain Chen. We are departing Confederation space immediately. Do not attempt to contact us. We'll explain when we return." Chen out. Then nothing. Silence that stretched across the void between stars. Harrison set down his coffee, cup with shaking hands. In the background, technicians worked frantically at their stations, trying to re-establish contact. For 3 days, they sent signals toward Confederation space. For 3 days, they received no reply. On the 4th day, something else came through. The communication array. Signal was stronger, clearer, and definitely not human. The alien voice spoke in perfect English, each word carefully pronounced. "People of Earth, your ship and crew have violated Confederation law. They have been detained for their crimes. Any attempt to send additional vessels will result in the sterilization of your planet. Remain within your solar system. This is your only warning." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Earth tried to respond, to ask what crimes, to demand proof their people were alive. But the aliens did not answer. The galaxy had gone silent. President Maria Santos called an emergency session of the United Nations within hours. Leaders from every nation gathered in New York, their faces grim as they listened to the recording. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of translation devices. "What exactly does sterilization mean?" asked the Prime Minister of Japan. Director Harrison stood at the podium, looking older than he had that morning. "Based on their technology level, we believe they could destroy all life on Earth, possibly crack the planet itself." The Brazilian representative leaned forward. "And our people, the crew of the Resilience. We have no information. They could be prisoners. They could be dead. We simply do not know." The debates that followed lasted for days. Some wanted to send rescue missions immediately. Others demanded they contact the Confederation again. Try to negotiate. Few suggested they should prepare for war. But as weeks turned to months, the reality became clear. Humanity was trapped. 300 of their best people were gone, possibly forever, Earth was alone, facing an enemy they could not see or reach. The change began slowly. Nations that had fought for centuries started sharing technology. The European Union opened its research facilities to African scientists. China shared its manufacturing capabilities with South America. The United States combined its space program with Russia's rocket technology. Dr. Rebecca Foster, who had trained with the Resilience crew, became the head of the new Global Defense Initiative. She worked from a bunker complex built beneath the Swiss Alps, coordinating research projects across 6 continents. "We have to assume the worst," she told her team during their first meeting. "Our people are gone. The aliens see us as a threat. We need to be ready for anything." The projects began immediately. Deep underground facilities appeared in deserts and mountains, places where humans could survive even if the surface became uninhabitable. Scientists worked around the clock, studying every piece of alien technology they could find. The Confederation signals that had first revealed their existence became objects of intense study. Cryptographers broke down every transmission, looking for weaknesses or useful information. Physicists analyzed the energy signatures, trying to understand alien power sources. 5 years passed. The Global Defense Initiative built a network of hidden bases across Earth and throughout the solar system. Mining operations on asteroids fed raw materials to orbital shipyards. The moon became a fortress, covered with weapon platforms and sensor arrays. Dr. Foster aged rapidly during those years. The stress of preparing for a war, they might never be able to fight war on everyone. But the work continued. Humanity learned to build faster ships, stronger weapons, better defenses. The breakthrough came in year 7. A team of physicists in Antarctica discovered something unusual while studying the alien signals. Hidden in the background radiation was a pattern, a kind of quantum signature that appeared in all Confederation transmissions. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the team leader, presented her findings to the Global Council. Every signal they send uses this same quantum frequency. It is like a fingerprint. If we can learn to copy it, we might be able to listen to their private communications. Within months, they had built receivers capable of detecting Confederation signals across dozens of star systems. What they heard changed everything. The aliens were not united. Different species within the Confederation argued constantly. Some wanted to destroy Earth immediately. Others saw humans as potentially useful slaves. A few even questioned whether the Confederation was right to suppress younger species. More importantly, they learned that other species had tried to resist. The galaxy was full of worlds that had been conquered or destroyed for refusing to submit. Earth was not alone in their hatred of the Confederation. By year 9, human ships could travel almost as fast as alien vessels. They had learned to copy Confederation weapons technology and improve upon it. Most importantly, they had learned to hide their activities from alien sensors. Secret missions launched to the outer edges of the solar system. Human scouts built hidden bases among the asteroid belts and in the shadows of gas giant moons. If the aliens came to Earth, they would find that humans had not been sitting still. Dr. Foster stood in the command center beneath Geneva, looking at displays showing human activities across the solar system. Factories on Ceres built weapons day and night. Training facilities on Europa prepared soldiers for battles in zero gravity. Research stations near Jupiter studied alien technology captured from ancient crash sites. "Any word from the deep space?" "Patrols?" she asked her aide. "Nothing yet, Doctor. But the quantum receivers are picking up increased Confederation activity near the galactic core. Something has them worried." Foster nodded. After 11 years of silence, they still did not know what had happened to the Resilience and her crew. But whatever it was, it seemed to be causing problems for their enemies. She turned back to the tactical displays.
Ow.
Red dots showed Confederation patrol routes. Blue dots marked human installations, hidden throughout the solar system. Earth was no longer the defenseless world the aliens had threatened so long ago. The question now was whether their preparations would be enough. Somewhere out in the darkness between stars, something was moving. The quantum sensors detected it. Weeks ago, disturbance in space approaching. From the direction of the galactic core, Foster checked the countdown clock on her display. Based on the sensor readings, whatever was coming would reach Earth in less than a month. After 11 years of waiting, wondering, and preparing, humanity was about to discover the fate of the Resilience and her crew. The silence was finally about to end. The warning lights in the command center beneath Geneva flashed red as the long-range sensors detected the approaching fleet. Dr. Rebecca Foster stood before the main display, watching dots of light move across the star map. After 11 years of waiting, something was finally coming home. "How many ships?" she asked the sensor operator. "7 confirmed contacts, Dr. D. But the energy signatures are ... strange. Some match Confederation technology, but others are completely unknown." Foster felt her heart race. The approaching fleet was still 3 days out, but their quantum sensors could detect the unusual mix of technologies. Human-built receivers picked up fragments of communication between the ships, but the signals were encrypted beyond anything they had seen before. "Are any of the ships broadcasting Confederation identification codes?" she asked. "No, Doctor, but one of them. ... The operator paused, checking his readings again. "One of them is broadcasting an old Earth frequency. The emergency channel we used 11 years ago." Foster's hands trembled as she reached for the communication controls. After more than a decade of silence, could it really be them? She opened a channel on the frequency the Resilience had used during their original mission. "Unknown vessels. This is Earth Defense Command. Please identify yourselves." For long seconds, only static filled the speakers. Then a voice emerged from the background noise. Older, rougher than Foster remembered, but unmistakably human. "Earth Defense Command? This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Resilience. We are requesting permission to approach Earth." The command center fell silent. Foster felt tears in her eyes as she stared at the communication panel. Sarah Chen. The captain they had mourned for 11 years was alive. "Captain Chen, this is Dr. Rebecca Foster. We thought you were dead." "Where have you been?" Sarah's laugh came through the speakers, but it carried a weight that had not been there before. "It is a very long story, Rebecca. We need to talk, but not over open channels. The galaxy has ears everywhere." Foster looked at the tactical display showing the approaching ships. "Captain, our sensors show 7 vessels in your group. Are they all friendly?" "More than friendly, Doctor. They're family. We have spent 11 years building something the Confederation never expected, but we need to dock first. There is much to explain." Over the next 3 days, Earth's hidden defense network prepared for the return of their lost heroes. Secret bases throughout the solar system powered up their weapons, just in case this was some kind of Confederation trick. But as the ships drew closer, it became clear that something extraordinary was happening. The Resilience was barely recognizable. The original kilometer-long vessel had been expanded and modified with technology that defied explanation. Metal flowed across its hull like living skin. Energy patterns that hurt to look at directly pulsed along its sides. The ship was still human, but it had become something more. The other 6 vessels were even stranger. Each one was built using completely different design principles, as if they came from species humanity had never encountered. Some were crystalline structures that bent light around them. Others looked like they had been grown rather than built. One ship seemed to be made of pure energy held together by invisible forces. Foster watched from the observation deck of Luna Station as the small fleet approached. Earth, the moon base, had been humanity's first line of defense for years, hidden beneath a false surface that looked lifeless from space. Now it would be the first place the returning heroes would set foot. "Docking Bay 7 is ready to receive the Resilience," reported the station commander. Foster nodded, but kept her eyes on the approaching ship. "What about the other vessels?" "They are taking positions around the moon. Our sensors cannot get clear readings on their technology, but they do not appear to be hostile." As the Resilience settled into the docking bay, Foster made her way to the airlock. A crowd of officials and scientists had gathered, eager to greet the returning crew. But when the airlock opened, the people who emerged were not quite what they Had expected Captain Sarah Chen step through first, but she looked different. Her hair was still the same brown color, but her eyes now held flecks of silver that seemed to glow in the station's lights. Her skin was smoother than it should have been after 11 years in space, moved with a grace that seemed almost inhuman. Behind her came the other crew members, each showing similar changes. Commander Webb's hair had turned completely white, but he looked younger than when he had left. Dr. Vasquez's eyes were now a deep blue that shifted colors as she looked around. All of them carried themselves differently, as if they had learned secrets that changed them at a fundamental level. "Rebecca," Sarah said, embracing her old friend, "you look tired. The years have been hard on Earth." Foster stepped back, studying Sarah's face. "The years have been kind to you, apparently. You look like you have barely aged a day." Sarah smiled, but there was sadness in her expression. "We learned things out there, Rebecca. Things that changed us. The galaxy is not what we thought it was." Over the following hours, the crew of the Resilience shared their story in the secure briefing rooms deep within Luna Station. What they revealed changed everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. The Confederation was not the ancient, advanced civilization they claimed to be. They were conquerors who had taken control of the galaxy through force and deception. For thousands of years, they had suppressed younger species, stealing their technology and enslaving their people. But they were not unopposed. In the dark spaces between the stars, in regions the Confederation avoided, other species had built a resistance. Ancient races that had been driven from their homeworlds, young civilizations that had escaped before being conquered, refugees, and rebels who dreamed of freedom. Dr. Vasquez opened a case that had not been there when they left Earth. Inside were crystals that pulsed with inner light, devices that looked grown rather than manufactured, and data storage units unlike anything human science had produced. "We found them in the void reaches," she explained. "Regions of space the Confederation marks as empty. But they are not empty. They are full of people who refuse to bow to tyranny." Commander Webb activated a holographic display that showed star maps humanity had never seen. Entire sectors of the galaxy were marked in colors that indicated free worlds, resistance bases, and hidden colonies. "We have spent 11 years learning from them," he said. "Their science, their technology, their fighting techniques. But more importantly, we have been teaching them about human tactics and human determination." Sarah stood before the assembled Earth officials, her silver-flecked eyes serious. "The Confederation thinks they broke us when they drove us away. They believe Earth is still cowering in fear, trapped in this solar system. They have no idea what we have been building." She gestured toward the other ships visible through the station's windows. "Those vessels represent 6 different species that have joined our cause. Each one brings unique technologies and capabilities. Together, we have created something the galaxy has never seen before." Oster looked at the data scrolling across the displays. Ship designs that combined the best of multiple species. Weapons that used principles human science was only beginning to understand. Most importantly, detailed intelligence about Confederation weaknesses and internal conflicts. "What are you planning, Sarah?" Foster asked quietly. Sarah's smile was sharp as a blade. "We are going to give the galaxy something it has not had in 1,000 years, Rebecca. We are going to give it hope." Outside the station, the 6 alien ships hung in space like sleeping giants. Each one represented a species that had suffered under Confederation rule. Each one had sworn to follow humanity in the coming war. The Resilience had returned home, but it had not come alone. It had brought with it the seeds of revolution. The Confederation fleet arrived at Earth 6 weeks after the Resilience returned home. 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their hulls gleaming with the arrogance of 1,000 victories. Admiral Kethfar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the primitive world that had dared to defy the Confederation. "Scan the system," he ordered his crew. "I want to know if these humans have built any new toys during their isolation." The sensor officer worked at his station for several minutes before reporting. "The scans show increased industrial activity on their moon and some asteroid mining operations. Nothing that appears threatening, Admiral." Kethfar nodded with satisfaction. The humans had learned their place during 11 years of silence. Now it was time to finish what should have been done long ago. The orders from the Confederation Council were clear. Make an example of Earth that would warn other primitive species about the cost of defiance. Open a channel to the human homeworld, he commanded, on Earth. Dr. Foster watched the alien ships from the command center beneath Geneva. The Confederation fleet was impressive, each ship larger than anything humanity had built before the Resiliences. Return, but Foster was not afraid. She had seen what Captain Chen and her allies had brought back. They are hailing us, reported the communication officer. Put them through, Foster said calmly. Admiral Kethvar's voice filled the command center. Speaking in the cold, superior tone the Confederation used with lesser species. Humans of Earth. Your species has harbored criminals and violated Confederation law. Will surrender your planet for cleansing. Resistance is futile. Foster looked at Captain Chen, who stood beside her with a slight smile on her face. Captain nodded once. Admiral Kethvar, Foster replied. This is Dr. Rebecca Foster speaking for Earth. We reject your demands. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. The alien admiral's laugh came through the speakers like breaking glass. Consequences? You are primitives trapped on a single world. We will give you 1 hour to reconsider before we begin. Bombardment. The channel closed. In the command center, human officers worked calmly at their stations. They had been preparing for this moment for 11 years. All defense platforms. This is Earth Command, Foster announced. Operation Homecoming is now active. Across the solar system, things that had been hidden began to reveal themselves. The asteroid mining stations were not what they appeared to be. Their surfaces opened like flowers, exposing weapon systems that had been disguised as industrial equipment. The moon's false surface split apart, showing defense platforms that bristled with railguns and missile launchers. But the greatest surprise came from empty space itself. Ships began to appear where sensors had detected nothing. Human vessels that had been hiding using technology learned from their alien allies. Each ship was a hybrid creation, combining human engineering with sciences from across the galaxy. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in shock. Where did all these ships come from? Our sensors detected nothing. Admiral, his sensor officer, reported with panic in his voice. We are detecting over 200 human vessels. Their technology signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Before Kethvar could respond, space around his fleet began to change. The 6 alien ships that had arrived with the Resilience appeared from hyperspace, taking positions around the Confederation fleet. Each one was from a different species. Each one carrying weapons the Confederation had thought destroyed long ago. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, came a new voice over the communication system. Admiral Kethvar, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Kethvar's face twisted with rage. You dare threaten the Confederation? You have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. Your time is over, Chen replied simply. The battle began with the Confederation making the first move. Kethvar ordered his ships to open fire on the nearest human vessels, expecting to sweep them aside like space debris. But the humans did not fight like any enemy the Confederation had faced before. Human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible, twisting through space using gravity drives that bent reality around them. They worked together like a single organism, each ship covering another's weaknesses. When Confederation plasma beams struck their hulls, strange energy fields absorbed the damage and redirected it back at the attackers. The alien ships fighting alongside, humanity brought their own surprises. Crystalline vessels from the shard worlds created geometric patterns that trapped Confederation ships in pocket dimensions. Energy beings from the void reaches passed through enemy hulls like ghosts, shutting down critical systems from within. But it was human tactics that proved most devastating. Where other species fought with honor or followed ancient battle doctrines, humans fought to win. They used tricks the Confederation had never encountered. They targeted specific ship systems instead of trying to destroy entire vessels. Coordinated attacks across multiple dimensions of space, Admiral Kethvar watched his flagship's shields collapse under weapons fire that came from angles that should not have existed. Around him, his fleet was being systematically disabled rather than destroyed. The humans were not trying to kill them. They were trying to capture them. "All ships retreat," he ordered. Emergency jump to Confederation space. But when his navigator tried to activate the hyperspace drive, nothing happened. Somehow, the humans had found a way to prevent hyperspace travel in the local area. The Confederation fleet was trapped. One by one, the alien warships were boarded by teams of humans and their allies. The boarding parties moved through the ships with equipment that made Confederation defenses useless. They used stun weapons that worked through any armor, tools that could open any door, and most terrifyingly, they showed mercy to enemies who had never shown mercy to others. Admiral Kethvar found himself face to face with Captain Chen in his own command center. The human woman looked at him with eyes that held silver fire, but her expression was calm. "Admiral, your crew will be treated according to the laws of war," she said. "They will be fed, housed, and eventually returned to Confederation space with a message." Kethvar struggled against the energy bonds that held him. "What message?" Chen smiled, and for the first time, Kethvar understood why the galaxy's younger species were beginning to whisper about human determination. "The message is simple," she said. "The age of Confederation tyranny is ending. Every species you have oppressed, every world you have conquered, every people you have enslaved, they all know what happened here today. They know that the Confederation fleet came to destroy a primitive world and was defeated without losing a single ship." She gestured toward the view screen, which showed human and alien vessels working together to repair damaged Confederation ships. "They will see that we do not rule through fear or destruction. We win through cooperation and innovation." The captain turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Tell your council that humanity offers them one chance to negotiate. They can end the oppression voluntarily, or the galaxy will end it for them." Within hours, every captured Confederation ship had been repaired and loaded with supplies. Their crews were returned unharmed, carrying with them recordings of the battle and evidence of how they had been treated as prisoners. Most importantly, they carried lists of star coordinates, the locations of resistance cells on 100 worlds, all ready to rise up when the signal came. As the defeated fleet limped back toward Confederation space, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, looking out at Earth. The blue world hung peaceful in space, no longer alone or afraid. "Status report from our allies?" she asked Commander Webb. "Resistance cells across 12 sectors, report ready for coordinated action. The Shard worlds are mobilizing their crystal fleets. The Void Reaches have promised 50 energy ships. Some Confederation member species are secretly offering support." Chen nodded. The first battle was over, but the war for galactic freedom was just beginning. And for the first time in 1,000 years, those who fought for liberty had hope. 6 months after the battle at Earth, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching ships from across the galaxy arrive and depart in a steady stream. The massive space station orbited Earth like a metal moon, built from materials donated by dozens of species who had joined the new Galactic Alliance. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see vessels that would have been impossible to imagine just a year ago. Crystalline ships from the Shard, worlds docked alongside human freighters. Energy beings from the Void Reaches communicated with insectoid traders from the Hive clusters. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together, united by their shared desire for freedom. "Captain, the morning briefing is ready," said Commander Webb, approaching with a datapad in his hand. Like Chen, he had changed during their years away from Earth. His white hair now held streaks of blue that shifted color with his emotions, a gift from their allies in the energy realms. Chen nodded and followed him to the command center. Unity Station served as the headquarters for the Galactic Alliance. It was unlike any government building the universe had ever seen. Instead of imposing throne rooms or sterile conference chambers, the station was designed as a place where different species could meet as equals. The main briefing room had areas adapted for beings who breathed different atmospheres. in different gravities and experienced reality in completely different ways. Holographic projectors allowed energy beings to participate alongside physical species. Translation systems converted not just languages but entirely different ways of thinking. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now the Alliance's chief science officer, was presenting the morning intelligence report. Her eyes, enhanced by symbiotic organisms from a grateful species humanity had helped liberate, could see across multiple dimensions of space. The liberation of the Krell system is complete, she announced. The Confederation garrison surrendered, without fighting when they saw our combined fleet. That brings us to 47 systems freed in the past month. Chen studied the galactic map floating above the briefing table. Green dots marked Alliance worlds, while red showed remaining Confederation territory. The red area was shrinking every day as more species chose freedom over oppression. "What about Confederation response?" asked Admiral Torres, the human who now commanded the Alliance Navy. She was new to the role, promoted when the old Earth's Defense Force was expanded to include ships from 200 different worlds. "Minimal," replied Intelligence Chief Morrison, a man whose neural implants allowed him to process information from thousands of sources simultaneously. They are dealing with internal rebellions across their core worlds. 3 Confederation member species have officially joined our alliance in the past week. The transformation had been faster than anyone expected. When news of the Confederation's defeat at Earth spread across the galaxy, it triggered uprisings on worlds that had been suppressed for centuries. Species that had forgotten the meaning of freedom remembered what it meant to fight for themselves. But the Alliance had learned from humanity's example. They did not rule through conquest or force surrender through destruction. Instead, they offered something the galaxy had not seen in 1,000 years: genuine cooperation between equals. Chen walked to the sector displays, showing recent Alliance activities. On Thaxis Prime, human engineers worked alongside native crystal shapers to rebuild cities destroyed by Confederation bombing. In the Helix Nebula, alien healers used human medical techniques to treat diseases that had plagued their people for generations. The Alliance fleet was equally diverse. Human ships formed the backbone of the military force, but each vessel carried mixed crews representing dozens of species. A human captain might work with a navigator who existed as pure energy, an engineer who grew living technology and security, officers who could phase through solid matter. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park from the communication station. "We have an incoming message from the Confederation Council. They are requesting a meeting." Chen raised an eyebrow. For 6 months, the Confederation had refused all attempts at communication, insisting that the rebellions were temporary and that order would be restored. Now they wanted to talk. "Put it through," she ordered. The holographic projector activated, showing the image of Supreme Chancellor Vexmore, the leader of the Confederation Council. The alien's usually perfect appearance showed signs of stress. His ceremonial robes were wrinkled, and his eyes held a desperation that had not been there during his previous arrogant broadcasts. "Captain Chen," he said, his voice lacking its former authority, "the Confederation Council wishes to discuss terms for ending the current conflict." Chen studied the alien leader's face. Behind Vexmore, she could see other council members arguing among themselves. The unity that had held the Confederation together for a millennium was cracking. Supreme Chancellor Chen replied calmly, "The Galactic Alliance is always willing to discuss peace, but our terms are simple: complete autonomy for all member worlds, dissolution of the forced tribute system, and trials for those responsible for genocide and slavery." Vexmore's expression twisted. "You ask us to abandon everything we have built. The Confederation has maintained order for 1,000 years. Order built on oppression is not true order," Chen said. "It is just delayed chaos. You have seen what cooperation can accomplish. Join us willingly, or continue to lose worlds until nothing remains." The transmission ended abruptly. In the briefing room, Alliance officers looked at each other with understanding. The old Confederation would never accept change willingly, but that was acceptable. As the galaxy was changing with or without their permission, Dr. Vasquez activated another display showing cultural exchange programs across Alliance worlds. "Captain, You should see the latest reports from our education initiatives. We now have over 10,000 mixed species research teams working on projects that would have been impossible under Confederation rule. Chen smiled as she reviewed the data. Human universities hosted students from species who learned by absorbing information through their skin. Alien masters of quantum mechanics taught human children to think in 11 dimensions. Art forms that combined the creativity of dozens of different species produced beauty that transcended what any single culture could achieve. What about our military academies? Asked Admiral Torres. Commander Webb answered, calling up training footage from facilities across Alliance space. Graduation rates are exceeding all expectations. When you teach someone to fight for freedom instead of fighting for conquest, they learn faster and fight harder. The footage showed mixed species training units working together with precision that amazed their instructors. Humans taught alien recruits about tactical flexibility and creative problem solving. In return, they learned about technologies and abilities their species had never possessed. A young human officer practiced combat maneuvers alongside a partner who could become invisible, and energy being learned to coordinate physical attacks with a squad of insectoid warriors. Most importantly, they all learned to trust each other completely. Chen watched a particular training session where a human sergeant was teaching a class of new recruits from 12 different species. The lesson was not about weapons or tactics, but about something more fundamental. Every species brings something unique to our alliance, the sergeant was saying. Humans bring determination and adaptability. The Shard people bring precision and patience. The Void Dwellers bring perspective and wisdom. Together, we are stronger than the sum of our parts. One of the alien recruits raised a crystalline appendage. Sergeant, what happens when we encounter species who do not wish to cooperate? The human sergeant smiled. We protect them anyway. We show them through our actions that there is a better way, and we wait. Freedom is patient, but it is also inevitable. Chen turned away from the displays and looked out at the endless stream of ships moving past Unity Station. Each vessel carried cargo, passengers, or messages between worlds that had never been able to communicate freely before. Trade routes that had been controlled by Confederation monopolies now served the needs of entire species. Captain, said Dr. Vasquez quietly, do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had never left Earth? If we had accepted the Confederation's first rejection? Chen considered the question while watching a convoy of refugee ships arrive from a world recently liberated from Confederation control. The ships carried families who had lived in fear for generations, now free to choose their own destinies. I think about it sometimes, she admitted. But I have learned that asking what if is less important than asking what now. We cannot change the past, but we can build a better future. Outside Unity Station, the galaxy continued its transformation. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had never known freedom learned to make their own choices. Children grew up believing that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that diversity was more valuable than uniformity. The Confederation still existed, but each day it grew smaller and weaker, not because it was being destroyed, but because its people were choosing something better. The age of tyranny was ending, not with explosions and warfare, but with hope and the promise of a galaxy where every species could reach for the stars together.